So a total change of tack now. Some of you who know me and know me on socials know I've been dabbling with AI recently. And that is the funniest thing, an old git like me trying to get his head around AI. But I've been playing around with Copilot, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Canva. But to be fair, I have been and still am a bit of a skeptic. When people ask me about AI in business, I have this stock saying, which is, myself and my team pride ourselves in our commercial and emotional intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. And we prioritize understanding and authenticity over scale and speed. Well, I think the next guy up is probably going to put me back in my box. So those of you who are keen on rugby may well recognize our next speaker. Nick Baxter was a professional rugby player, played for Worcester Warriors, I believe, for 9 years, 93 to 2002. Most recently, Nick is co-founder of AI Expert, founder of Collab, non-exec director of Worcestershire Local Enterprise Partnership, CEO of Baxter Williams, and co-founder of Long Lunch Events. Now, they sound fun. Long Lunch Events. So a very busy man, probably busier than me. He's got more on his plate than I have. So today, Nick will be introducing AI Expert, a company specializing in applied artificial intelligence and emerging technologies that work with businesses to translate AI from a theory into practical operational use. His presentation today will look at AI, the potential, the pitfalls, and the foundation. The AI Expert team can be found in our interactive zone, the AI pit stop area, alongside Nick Crawford from Twist Consultancy. So please take the opportunity to speak to them later. But please, can we have a very warm welcome for Nick Baxter? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Nick Baxter from AI Expert. I did say to Tim, please do not let me follow Nicholas Hamilton. But here I am. So very well welcome from me and my co-founder, Christian Collison from AI Expert. And as Tim eloquently introduced me, we are an AI consultancy helping organizations to embrace the power of automation and AI. So, as Tim said, we're going to look at pitfalls, potential pitfalls, and the foundation. But today, I'm going to talk to you about three things. The first thing is the truly transformative power of AI and automation for organizations such as yourself. Secondly, I'm going to be really truthful and talk to you where some of the pitfalls lie and where some organizations don't quite make it. And lastly, I'm going to show you and give you some foundations to set yourself up for success for your organizations. So, to kick things off, we're going to get an audience participation, please. Can I have a show of hands for anybody who's bought some software that was due to transform their business, and 12 months later, 3 people were using it and everyone was back to the old spreadsheets? Excellent, not many people. People always grab me afterwards and say, I didn't want to put my hand up before, but yeah, that's happened to us. Well, listen, quite frankly, you're not alone. Last year, there was £150 billion spent on AI projects, and 70% of those projects failed. Not because the technology didn't work, but we're going to come back to the reasons for this a little bit later. Firstly, we're going to start with a positive and talk about some of the truly amazing applications for AI in organizations such as yourself. To start with, we're going to look at AI on a production floor. And actually, I spoke to AI Tech. Is AI Tech here? Can you put your hand up? There was a great guy I spoke to earlier from AI Tech, which is very similar to what I'm going to talk to you today about predictive maintenance. As we all know, AI learns what you do, and AI learns what normal looks like on the production line. So it can warn you days before breakdown. And we've seen with our clients, we can lead up to 25% in cost reductions and up to 30% less downtime. And AI Tech, they had some thermal imaging, which could tell you when your machines were either showing you data where there was heat anomalies, showing that there was a fault, and equally so, they were showing you when there was a fire as well. So from a quality inspection perspective, AI vision detecting can spot detect in a matter of seconds, and also, at worst case scenario, 90%, which is better than any human being, it can see problems before customers see them. With production planning, We can see that AI can analyze your historical data, it can optimize your schedules automatically, meaning less waste and also better throughput. And a great example is, in 1 year, Renault saved £270 million using AI for energy and maintenance. And that's not a typo, that's £270 million in 1 year. And that's just the factory floor. In terms of back office, and when we look at AI, you'll hear AI quite a bit, and you'll also hear automation. We've seen lots of applications where we've either used things off the shelf or we've built applications where we've seen automation really taking out lots of toil out of the workflows. And we call toil manual labor, repetitive tasks, jobs where anybody can do the admin. And actually, it's a great way to repurpose your workforce. So from automated quoting, we see organizations, particularly with some of the applications we're using, a 45% faster quote generation and up to 3,000% time reduction. For order processing, we've created a fantastic app for emails that convert emails straight to orders, taking a whole layer or a whole person out of the process. And particularly with finance teams, with invoice processing, finance teams can create up to 38% productivity and 40% cost reduction just on automating invoice processing. With voice agents, we created some really cool voice agents. We created one actually for a restaurant chain recently, but the automation of voice means that you've got 24/7 contact. Customer experience is better. You get access to your products in all the time outside of work hours. And more importantly, you get instant responses. And within HR and personnel, we see CV screening, onboarding, and policy queries taking up to 75% of admin within HR and recruitment. With document management, we can search, we can search, we can summarize documents, getting instant answers, again, taking away some of the admin toil. So before we look at the scale of the opportunity, I'm going to make a statement which is just ringing true. I spoke to lots of business owners today and lots of people at the conference, and it's quite clear that people are either some way on the journey to AI, they've either started and for some reason have stopped, and we'll talk a little bit more later, or they know they need to do something, their competitors are doing something, and they're just not sure where to really start and take that first step. But let me just tell you, AI isn't coming, it's already here. Let me put that into perspective. Manufacturers reporting 50% reductions in production time. AI is aiming to boost productivity by 2035 by an absolute 40%. And the market in manufacturing will grow from 5 billion to 54 billion by 2032. So currently there's about 35% of all manufacturers using AI, which is why I said earlier, AI isn't coming, it's already here. So the question isn't whether AI will transform your industry or your business, it's whether you'll be ready when it does. So those statistics, and this is a bit of a mouthful, from the AI Statistics in Manufacturing report in 2025 are really incredible. But the real question is, why isn't everybody succeeding with AI? I've normally got my tech guys at the back of the room, and they always put their thumbs up to this statement. And we say that the biggest threat to AI isn't the failing in technology, it's the gaps in your foundations. So I'll say it again, the biggest threat from AI projects failing isn't your technology, but it's in the gaps in your foundation. And up to 70% of those AI projects fail. And it's an uncomfortable truth. But it's not because the AI doesn't work, it fails because of 3 reasons. The first one is data and data problems. Poor quality data, siloed data, inaccessible data. AI can't learn from data it can't see. And you may have heard the statement before, crap in, crap out, excuse my French, when it comes to systems. Put the crap in, you get the crap out. And it's very similar with data and AI. The second one is cybersecurity and the concerns around governance and procedures. Put your hands up if you're familiar with the term shadow AI. Okay. It's a bit worrying, we've got one hand, but it's not an issue. Now, shadow AI is AI that's happening in your business right now. It could be an application that somebody's using that hasn't been sanctioned. It's not governed by any policy, and it's got 2 issues. One, your data is out in the ether, and secondly, it's a perfect opportunity and gateway for cybersecurity attacks in your business. So be very familiar with shadow AI. And the last one is cultural confidence. People perceiving AI as a threat to their organization or their threat to their business and their role, which means they don't go on board. That coupled with poor onboarding and training means that AI will never work. If you don't get your people on board, they don't use a system. If they don't use the system can't work. So let's look at how we set ourselves up for success. What separates the 30% of organizations that succeed with AI projects from the 70% that fail? And it's simple: guardrails. They're not nice to haves, they're non-negotiables. And they're the foundation that make everything possible. So when we have our first conversation with organizations around AI, we highlight 5 key areas in their organization for foundations. And then we question what your current operations look like in those foundations. So for example, data. Is your data clean? Is it connected? Or is it trapped in spreadsheets and siloed? Secondly, cybersecurity. Do you have AI policies, or is shadow AI running wild? Governance. Who's responsible for it, or is everybody just winging it? And systems and processes. You can't automate chaos. If people aren't following your current systems, there won't be a magic AI wand that you can wave over them to make them work. Lastly, again, in terms of culture, do people feel enabled, or do they feel threatened? And if we get those foundations right, your AI has got a perfect platform for success. But next, I'd like to talk a little bit about governance. Here's what most people get wrong when it comes to governance. They think governance is bureaucracy, they think it's red tape, they think it's a slow down. But actually, it's not. And I'm just going to stop and tell you a little anecdote, which is actually a true story. In 2020, there was a study in Greece around the psychology of children interacting with play spaces and playground spaces. So they had 3 playgrounds where they fenced the playgrounds. And what they did, they had 3 different types of fences. They had tall fences, they had short fences, they had fences with concrete posts, they had some fences with some horizontal railings on them. And the assumption would be that the fences were there to segregate, they were there to control, and they were there to restrict the children. But what actually happened was, whilst the children interacted with the playground, the swings, and the slides and the roundabouts, what they actually found was that the most creative area of the playground was actually the fences. And what they found was some children used some of the concrete posts as stepping stones, some of them used it as a combat assault course, some of them swung from the railings. And when they spoke to the parents afterwards, they said, would you rather have the children fenced or unfenced? And they said, no, we love the fences because when it was unfenced, we hovered around the children, we stopped them from being creative and expressing themselves, and we inhibited that creativity. And governance is very similar to those fences. It doesn't actually restrict innovation, it actually enables it. And as I said, it also creates the confidence. It allows people to trust AI and to work with it, using those fences or using those guardrails. And when it comes to AI and jobs, a lot of people, we get this conversation probably 2 or 3 times a week around people's worrying that their people think they're going to lose their jobs from AI. AI doesn't take people's jobs. It enables them to be better versions of themselves. It allows them to be more efficient, more productive, and more valued to the business. But only if those 5 foundations are there, as we mentioned before. Only if people feel confident and they feel non-threatened. So I'm going to share a few lessons that we learned here at AI Expert over the last 18 months. When we first started AI Expert, I particularly, from a sales perspective, was very keen and excited to show organizations about the great things AI could do, the demos, the possibilities, the transformation, looking at ROI, looking at the efficiencies we could create and the productivity. But here's what we discovered. True delivery only came when we set the foundations right. And the organizations that succeeded weren't the ones who jumped straight onto the technology, but the ones that got their governance right. They prepared their culture, and they built the right environment for AI to thrive. So whoever you choose as your AI partner, whether it's ourselves or another organization, make sure they can help you create those systems, those processes, and the culture that will enable AI to succeed. It's not just about the technology. And only when you've got those foundations right, you can make sure that you're not part of that 70%. And I implore you, don't be part of that 70% statistic, please. And so finally, where do you stand? You probably listen to the presentation and thinking, this is probably the point for me to pick a conversation with Nick or an AI partner and talk about how we start. I definitely spoke to a couple of people earlier, and they said, what we really need to do is find out one application we can use in our business. Once we understand there's a case study or there's one application we can use it, then we can look at taking it and implementing it into the wider organization. But we've built an AI readiness assessment, and what that does, it takes you about 10 minutes, and it scores you across those 5 areas: your data, your security, your governance, your systems, and your culture, and gives you a perfect start point to understand exactly where your business is currently. We also call it the conversation starter. So feel free to speak to me and my business partner, Christian Collison. We'll be in the hall for the rest of the afternoon, and we'd love to have a conversation with you about how you start your journey around AI. But if one thing you can take from the conversation and the presentation today is that the businesses that win with AI won't be the ones that move fastest, but they're the ones that build the foundation first. So build the engine, and then you can race. Thank you.
I won't be a minute. I've been practicing ventriloquism. Can't even say it. It'll become clear in a minute. Okay, thank you, Nick. As a bit of an AI skeptic, I think I'll be making a call, and I implore you to have a chat with AI expert who are in the hall later. Okay.